Hi, Fashion Dolls. It is finally Friday, December 20th, and next week is Christmas. Can you guys believe that? But joining me today in the dollhouse, we have a prolific songwriter and multi platinum artist, producer, composer, and Grammy nominated BMI singer songwriter recipient. Now, he's worked with such acts such as Tony Braxton, Jade, Lenny Kravitz, El DeBarge, Bootsy Collins, Shock G, DJ Quick. He's worked with Rick James. He's worked with Erykah Badu. He's worked with Tashina Arnold, Darius McQuarrie. He's worked with so many artists. Please, Fashion Dolls, join me as we give a warm welcome to Grammy nominated BMI songwriter recipient Ron Cat Spearman. And I'm going to share this live. Hi, Enar. Hi, Angela. I hope you guys all are doing as fabulous as I am. Today is purple. Yesterday it was red, but today I was feeling a little bit purple. All right? So let me share this live and get my guests on in here. Super excited. Are y'all excited? Because I am super excited. Super excited, Fashion Dolls. Oh my goodness. This week flew by so fast, and it seems like the month of December is going out so fast. So I'm super excited for season 19, which is coming up January 2nd. We will be back. So I'm excited. We have some great guests coming on. I keep saying I'm excited, but I'm happy because we have so many great things in store for the next season. Season 19 is going to be lit, and I am anticipating it. I'm going to keep my nose focused for the next 4 years on what I want to do. So without further ado, Fashion Dolls, let's welcome our incredibly talented, please give a warm welcome to Ron Cat Spearman.
Which one?
Hello,
Hi,
hello, handsome to the
how
doghouse.
are you?
I'm doing
Hey, I
wonderful.
can't
It is
complain.
such a
Thanks.
pleasure to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Yes, so before we kick off this interview, how has 2024 been for you so far? Because this year has flew by so
It
fast,
has.
and before you know it, we'll be heading into 2025. So, how has 2024 been for you so far?
It's been a little bit of a roller coaster. Um, it's been some great things that's happening. I'm making a lot of great music that I'm happy about, inspired by a lot of great things that are going on. And had some tragedies that have happened, around me. Um, but I'm feeling inspired. I'm fired up. I'm ready to bring it into the 25. Bring it on. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to continue on and make some spread some love around.
And that you have. Now, before I get into your catalog of work, it is such an honor to have you here. An icon like yourself. You have been in the game for decades, and you've worked with some of the greats. Hence the purple hair and everything purple today, because you worked with one of my
It's
favorite
fabulous. Yeah.
favorite singers and songwriters and just
Mm,
composers. You've worked with Prince, but we'll get into that. I'm holding
hmm
off because I like to start from the beginning of the story. Now, what first got you into music, and at what age that you discovered the passion and the sound of music?
I think it started at the baby crib because I remember just hearing music all around me. And from the time I got up, there was a bass player that played the boom boom, the upright bass was playing like right next door. Then when I would go to my relative's house, I would hear all the Motown sound and all the everything. She would play everything. She would play funkadelic even back then, and I didn't really even know who they were. I was really young, but I knew that I liked the songs. And then um, it's just been so many different things that have influenced me. My father played a lot of jazz. He used to take me to the jazz clubs and play when I was little, and it's just always been around. It has never has left me. So yeah.
Now, for you, because you work in funk music, and we in times like these we need, you've done all genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna go down the list here of some of the greats that you've worked with.
Mm-hmm.
You've worked with one of my favorites, another one of my favorites, which is Tony Braxton. You've
Yes.
worked with the late
Yeah.
Prince. You've worked with the girl group J, Don't Walk Away. You've
Mm-hmm.
worked with Elder Barge. You worked with
Yes.
George
Grew up with
Clinton.
them.
You're
Yeah.
also a
Mm-hmm.
member of George Clinton's Parliament Funkadelic, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of the groups that I grew up listening to.
Mm-hmm.
If not that one, and I just had my guest on yesterday, and we were talking about vinyls. And he
Mm-hmm.
asked me a question. He said, "What was one of the vinyls that you heard?" I forgot to tell him George Clinton, Parliament, and the Funkadelics. My father grew me up into the Motown era. I'm a '90s baby,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm giving my age away. But he also
Right.
put me on to the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
the 80s as it pertains to funk
Mm-hmm.
music, as it pertains to R&B.
Mm-hmm.
I got introduced to Harold Melvin and the Blue
Oh,
Notes,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye, and
Yeah.
another group, a girl group that was out in the 70s, Three
Mm-hmm.
Degrees. Before
Mm-hmm.
we had Jade and En Vogue and SWV, and just recently I interviewed Shades. They all were out during that same era
Mm-hmm.
in the 90s with En Vogue,
Mm-hmm.
Jade, TLC, and Shades.
Mm-hmm.
But you've worked with so many artists. Speaking of girl groups, you worked with the Mary Jane Girls.
Yes.
You've worked with Starface. You've worked with Darius
Yes.
McQuarrie.
Yeah.
So your catalog of work is just extended. But the hit song "Don't Walk Away," which is on Jade's debut album,
Mm-hmm.
Jade to the Max,
Mm-hmm.
which which launched in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
November 1992, the single was released.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on Giant Records. And you and Vassal Benford, who
Yes.
also worked with Tony
Yeah.
Braxton on her debut album.
Yeah.
And if you go to the second one as well, too, Secrets. Secrets, I feel like, is underrated. People don't talk
Mm.
enough about that album.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you've worked with so many artists.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get to your artistry journey, what's in your mind when you're writing these songs? Because when you write, coming from the male perspective, it's like you know what we go through.
Mm-hmm.
Don't Walk Away was a song that my sister would listen to religiously, God rest her soul.
Mm.
That was a song whenever I would go to visit her and she's cooking in the kitchen or she's doing, we would be, well, I would do her hair or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She would play that song religiously. Now, it samples the drums from Cool and the Gangs, Jungle Jazz, and then you've
Yeah.
got a sample from Stevie Wonder, that girl. So, I mean,
Uh-huh.
when you are writing music for women, because you and not only you, and I'm pretty sure you've heard, you know the person I'm about to mention, Kenneth Babyface
Oh yeah.
Edmonds.
Yeah.
It's like you know exactly what women, what we go through, what we want to say to
Mm-hmm.
a man as it pertains to love, as it
Mm-hmm.
pertains to feelings,
Mm-hmm.
as it pertains to I want you, I want to get with you. This
Right.
is coming from a woman's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, what's it like writing for women and just telling our experiences, and where do you get the common knowledge from?
Well, I've always been a good listener. So I used to listen to my mom, and she would confide in me sometimes and, share her problems with me. She said she used to do it when I was in the crib, at the baby chair, and, and she would be surprised because I would turn around and give her answers. You know how sometimes kids would say something you not expect them to say, and I guess I was just one of them kids. But I've always been a good listener, and I try to come from a truthful place and try to, think about how I would like to be treated and how my mother used to talk about how she, how you're supposed to treat a woman, and my father taught me a few things, few things I don't want to share, but he shared some things with me, and I was able to see, like, different sides of how a man is and how a man is not supposed to be towards a woman, and just learned a lot of different things, and just listening to other writers, that have written other things, great music, and have, I try to write things that are going to spark a thought, or maybe somebody might, that will, if they get something from my music, they might text me, or they might email me, Instagram me, and say, man, that song saved my life, that song helped me to do, and so I just like try to continue to do things that inspire and that make me feel a certain way, because I know if I like some songs I've written, I've literally cried because of what I was writing about, And sometimes you can't get into those emotions when you're writing, but a lot of times I try to go to those places, not always emotional, but just things that are honest, and just true, and so um, just being able to relate to the female perspective. I don't think I got it totally down, but I'm still learning. It's always something to learn, but I think I've learned a lot, And in that instance, I mean, it definitely came across. It came through that song because it's definitely like an anthem for me and Basel. Yeah, yeah.
And the song peaked number 2 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 R&B hip hop songs,
Mm-hmm.
and the Billboard Hot 100 outside of the United
Hmm.
States. It also peaked within the top 10 in the United Kingdom and the Netherlands.
Hmm.
So with Don't Walk Away, it was basically it's self-explanatory itself. I'm talking to you, I'm trying to court you, I'm trying
Right.
to get with you. So
Yeah.
I mean, even for Tony Braxton, and I'm gonna
Hmm.
go back to what you just said because you've worked with Tony as well too.
Hmm. Hmm.
She said for Unbreak My Heart, she almost didn't record that song. It was just
Yeah.
that sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of artists, and
Yeah.
that was going to be my next question for you,
Hmm.
coming from an artist standpoint.
Hmm.
Are there some songs that take you to a place where it's just like, okay, I think I need to sit this one out,
Yeah.
reevaluate it before I take it on? Because there
Yeah.
have been artists who turned down
Yeah.
songs and said, I can't record
Yeah.
this. So we're going to give to the next artist and
Yeah.
see what they do with it.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of times it's it depends on where an artist is in their life, like where their growth is, where they are, and we're all growing. We're all trying to figure certain things out, and I mean, there there are songs that I have written that like after my father passed away. I wrote a song. In fact, he was in his transition, and this melody wouldn't go away from my hands on my guitar, and I was just playing as he was just, laying there in the next room. And that song is going to be on my next next album, and it's an instrumental song. But I've definitely had to put certain things down, where I couldn't like touch them for a while, like maybe even for a year or something, and like even in P Funk when I was doing playing in Parliament Funkadelic, there was a song I did, a tribute song, and we had lost Belita Woods and Gary Scheider, and I dedicated this song called "Peace to You." That's on the Dance on the Mothership record, and I dedicated that to them. But it was very emotional for all of us, for everybody in the band, because they could feel the emotion because we all, traveling on the road, going through the ups and downs of show business, and it was just a very emotional thing. So yes, there is a lot of songs that I have. Like sometimes I have to put it aside, and sometimes I can just plow right through and just, get right to it.
And that leads me to my next question for you. What is your creative process like? Because you've worked with Erica Badu,
Hmm.
and we know Erica. If you know her from back in the day,
Hmm.
and I remember seeing her on what was a BET's Planet Groove at the time,
Hmm.
and she came in was a whole vibe. Like
Hmm.
Erica, I don't know how they had it. She must have demanded, I don't know what, but when she came on and she came down those stairs, because at the time the studio for BET's Planet Groove was in DC,
Hmm.
and so they had like the tall candelabra. She came in, it was a whole vibe. She had a scent, incense, like a
Yeah.
whole environment. So for you, when you're creative, what is that process like for you when you're in the studio? And what type
Um,
of elements do you
it's
like?
it's it's it varies for me. I'm open to whatever's going on at the time. I go with the flow. Like I'm like a cat for real. I mean, I just kind of just go with the flow. I could sit in the room. I could write in the alley. I'm just like I just go with. I'm like taking a Polaroid of what's not Polaroid, but not these days, but like a video of like what's going on, and I'm soaking it up and trying to keep it, as real as I can about what's going on. And sometimes I have fun to where I'm writing something that might be a little fictitious but has some truth to it, or something that I've experienced. But I'm open to the experience, because I play so many different instruments. It's hard for me to get bored sometimes, So I can always and when I do hit a writer's block or something like that, I'll go to a museum, or go to a club, or go talk to somebody, or just sit out somewhere and just soak things up, so that, because most of what I do, I get it from things that are inside me, and then things that are not that are outside of me, and that's going on. I'm writing about what's going on, what I'm going through, and so
Oh,
my
yeah.
process is to me, I've just learned to just kind of let it be unlimited. I don't have like a set thing. I know that I liked it. Like, I can come in the studio every day and write something every day. Like, just easy for
And
me.
and music is such a great feeling when you write. You and I said this to an artist that I interviewed, because we're now starting to see the rise. I was reading, I think it was on Billboard, where we're now seeing the rise of a lot of independent songwriters
Yeah.
and creators,
Hmm.
and they're going out here, or indie artists, and they're going and they're creating their own music. They're not
Yeah.
being backed by a label.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the new rise of indie artists that are coming out? Because you've worked with so many greats,
Hmm.
and to see them carve out the path for the next generation of artists that are coming out
Yeah.
right now. What do you
Yeah.
think about the rise of these indie artists taking it and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to do it with a label, but I'm going to go and do my own thing"?
Yeah. I think if you can do that, I think it's great. If you can find a partnership with a label, it's great. If you can get in any situation that is conducive to what you're making, the art that you're making, or whatever it is that you're doing, and then you find a team of people that can help you, or if you don't
Oh
need
yeah,
anybody, and it works, then it's all good. But it's nothing like having a label that's supportive of what you're doing, because you become the label when you're doing your independent thing. So you do need a team of people. And so if you have something like that is instrumental in helping you to become successful, I think it's all good. I think all of it's relative. The independent artist really puts everything else on notice,
oh yeah.
because it's like, we don't need y'all. Y'all tripping, y'all messed up on my last single, so I'm putting this out myself, and they feeling me, so I'm doing it. It's so funny you say that, because I was just thinking that. I was like, you know what? I'm tired, tired of playing around. Because these people be playing charades with your career, man. They be holding you up. They be getting mad at you about stuff and sabotaging things. And, it be all kinds of stuff. You got to have a really thick skin to be in any part of show business, to me. You just got to have, you can't even trip on nothing too long, you know, and you have to just really, really just plow through some of this stuff, especially when you're coming from an honest place, and you trying to make something great, because some people sit up, and you come up with something, and they're just put thumbs down on it,
Thumbs
you
down
know,
on it.
and the public might tell you something different, they might be, yo, or they might like that song in Thailand, they might not like it over here, you know. Sometimes you might have a hit record in LA that's beaten, but then when you go to Missouri or something, it's like they not jamming on that. But sometimes it's great to have a song that's internationally, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
So, you know, it's all
And
relative. Hmm.
speaking of internationally, we were talking about "Don't Walk Away." The song has been ranked one of the 100 greatest girl group songs of all
Is
time
that
by Billboard.
right?
So yes,
I didn't
and
know that.
"Don't Walk Away." "Don't
Wow.
Walk Away" has had a lasting impact for the next generations of girl
Oh
groups.
my
But I'm gonna go back to
goodness.
what you just said.
Wow.
Well, you're wasting. Time is of the essence as it pertains to artists getting their music out there. And when you said that, I thought about T-Boz from TLC.
Huh.
She was talking about the after the fan mail album, because that is one of my favorite albums, and I was talking about it with my guest yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
Eugene. We were talking about vinyls. We were talking about Sade, and he asked me, "What is an album that you heard?" I said, "Fan Mail" was the one of the first albums that I've heard. TLC Fan Mail, and
Mm-hmm.
after that album, after the passing of one of their group, their bandmates, Lisa
Mm-hmm.
Left Eye Lopez,
Mm-hmm.
they were going to the studio to record their third album.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as creative, because as an artist, artist development, your creativity of what you want your album, the aesthetic to look like.
Mm-hmm.
For this album, she said it was very dark. 3D would have been the third album.
Mm-hmm.
She said it really barely had any input to it. So it was just like, okay, you got to, because you have to submit when you're going to release the album to the record company and everything like that when they were signed to a label, because they were
Mm-hmm.
signed to Arista. At first, it was LaFace Records, and
Uh-huh.
then they went to Arista for the third album. So
Uh-huh.
she's in an interview with Cam Newton. The album just came out all will, they'll have your album coming out all willy nilly, but they need to go ahead. And then they went and they put the greatest hits album out, which is Now and
Mm-hmm.
Forever, which is available across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can go and get it. But that's because their bandmate passed, and they were just like, okay, they really didn't have enough time. They were still in the grieving process of mourning their bandmate, mourning
Mm-hmm.
Lisa Left Eye Lopez's passing. So the album, she said, the album cover, if you go back and you look at that album cover, that wasn't really their idea. That was more so of the record companies
Huh.
doing, because TLC has always had an input into what they want their look to look like. The same
Mm-hmm.
for Invo, the same for Mary J.
Yeah.
Blige. And I think a lot of that comes from the late, I can't remember his name. He passed away. I cannot remember his name, but I know he had a lot of input into what he wanted Mary to look like, as far as the aesthetic, as
Mm-hmm.
far as her style, each
Mm-hmm.
album that she came out with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if I can't remember his name. I know he passed, but I know he's worked with Mary J. Blige,
Mm-hmm.
and this was around the time when Uptown Records was out. So it's important that the artists have an outlook on what they want their album to look like.
Right.
And so for the third album, for TLC 3D, if you go back and you look at that cover, they're all dressed in black.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the other album covers, they're more vibrant. That's because they have more of an input.
Ah.
So we're starting to see now a lot of artists take that
Yeah.
independent route.
Yeah.
So my next question for you is, with you being a veteran in the music game, how important is artist development these days for the next generation of
I
artists coming
I think it plays a very valuable part. Um, and it's good to have some direction, sometimes, especially for people who have never, have embarked upon this business before.
up?
And if you have some really good, solid people that can give you some sound advice on how to do interviews and how to, conduct yourself and how to not talk yourself into some kind of, what have you,
Right.
I think it's important. Everybody plays a part. It takes a team. Like a lot of artists I've heard say this, we feel that way. Like it really does take a team of people to help you to become successful. You can't and you have to be able to relinquish like some of those responsibilities. Like some of us are multitaskers and we can do more than one thing. But it's good to have some people that like you can bank stuff off on and they can give you their input. Like the stylist is great at the stylist. You might have some style, but they might embellish on what your style is, or somebody that can help you to shape your vision. It's good to have like just a team. I think a team is very important to me in anything that you're trying to do with show business. Like some good solid people that's going to give you the truth, that's not going to just be kissing you, but just like helping you to move along in your career. So
And it's
I think,
all about structure
yeah.
as well too. And the artist that I'm about to mention, and you know where I'm going because of the color today, Prince was genius. He was
Yeah,
ahead of his time
yeah,
for that. And I remember watching an interview because he went and he said, you know what, bump this. I'm gonna go and start my own label.
right,
And just as that, he
yeah,
did. And I
yeah,
think Shaka Khan and
yeah,
and Larry and so many others were
yeah,
signed to his label.
yeah,
And I remember he did the interview with Mel B from the Spice Girls,
Mm-hmm.
and this was around the time he went and started his own label.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a whole different thing when you had an artist, whereas you had other artists that were contracted with record
Mm-hmm.
labels. Prince branched out and was ahead of his time and said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and start my own label. And the person I was looking to mention was the late Andre Harrell. We can't
Ah.
forget about him.
Oh
That's
yeah.
who I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
mentioning as it
Yeah.
pertains to Mary J. Blige and bringing her up as far as her style, as far as her sound vocally,
Mm-hmm.
and of course Puffy. But
Yeah.
the thing is, it's all about having that team behind you. And
Yeah.
as it pertains to Prince, and another one is Lenny
Oh
Kravitz.
yeah. Yeah.
So for Prince, what was some of the gems that he gave you of before? Because he was ahead of his time,
Yeah.
and
He
he has
was.
music in the vault
Yeah.
that we don't even know about. So he
Yeah.
was genius about it. And one thing I remember him also saying in an interview, Ron, was that you have to own your
Yeah.
masters. Now, years later, what do we see now?
Yeah.
We
On your
see
man.
artists like
Yeah.
Taylor Swift. We
Yeah.
see artists like Ashanti and so
Mm-hmm.
many others having to go back into the studios
Mm-hmm.
and re-record their albums. So, what were some of the gems that were important to Prince that he shared with you the most?
Um, I was one night. He did a performance, and my friend at this place in L.A. called the Key Club,
Mm.
and he I I was first meeting him because I've been with him on a couple of occasions with George, with Darius, and this time I was with Darius at the time, and he had just finished the show, and I was introducing myself, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he said, "Hey, how you doing? You don't have a deep voice." And he
It sounds just
said,
like
"I said, I wrote that song." I felt so corny for saying it, but I had to tell him. I said, "I wrote that song, Don't Walk Away." We were talking about something else. I can't remember what it was. And he said, "Oh, you mean do-do-do-doom, bang, do-do-do-doom, bang." And he sang my song to me. And he said, he was just telling me how great of a song that was. And throughout my career, he's always like, he would send us artists to work with. Like, I think he sent us this one girl, Lisa. Her name was Lisa Fisher, but she's not the Lisa Fisher that we know of.
oh,
And then Martika, when I was working with Martika, he would, we did a remake of Martika's Kitchen that he wrote with her. And so he would always just kind of send us like a thumbs up and give us a compliment on, that. And then when I met him with George, it was you know, he was really nice and just friendly and just it was just quite a great experience to just be in his presence, and you could see the greatness. He introduced me to his father, I think, and Lenny was there. It was when he did the Joy review into the Joy Fantastic, and I went up there for that, and they were all there. Lenny, George, and me, and all the rest of the other artists, and that was a great experience. Just hanging out with them at Paisley Park, and talking to them and just standing in a circle. I was standing in a circle, in a round circle with it was myself, George, Lenny, and Prince, and I'm just like can't believe. I'm freaking out, but I'm like, wow, you're here. You're here too. You must be some. And so that was very encouraging just to hear them talk. And then me and Lenny got together and later, well, before that, me and Lenny got together before the review into the Joy Fantastic. And he probably doesn't remember, but we cut a song at my house and we hung out him for a while. Lenny was going to sign me at one point. Um, a while back and some weird stuff happened, but it was a great experience. In fact, I introduced Lenny to Rick James. Rick was at my house at the
Oh
time,
yeah.
and then Lenny was over at the same time in Martika and everything. And they seem like they hit it off, because I think Rick went to one of Lenny's shows later, and then I was always recording all the time, cutting stuff. It's just a man. I got so many stories of just all type of people that have been in the business that have brushed shoulders with. I remember the first time when I was working with Vassell, we were doing this group called the Jets. I don't know if you remember the Jets. And
Crushing.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we did the Jets, and we flew up to Paisley Park, and he Prince had just did that song "Thieves in the Temple," but they were on tour, and so I was sneaking all around Paisley Park, just fanning out. If he knew that, he'd probably trip out. But I was in all the studios though, because some of them weren't anybody in them, and we had the big room. But I was just like walking throughout Paisley Park, and then later on in my life, I actually got to meet him. It's been a really trippy little journey for me. It's like just deep, deep stuff. Like, because I believed in myself enough and I saw myself being in certain places,
Yeah.
I just all of a sudden I was there. Like, you know, it's crazy stuff.
And his living testament lives through you. His living
Hmm.
testament lives through Marva King.
Yeah,
His living testament lives through Shaka Khan.
yeah,
His living testament lives through Sheila E.
yeah,
His living testament lives
yeah,
through Sheila Easton. Prince has left an
yeah,
impact, and
yeah,
you
he
can see
did.
the next generation of
Yeah,
artists. I would say Bilal and Lucky
yeah,
Day, and I'm pretty sure you're familiar with these two gentlemen I
yeah,
just named.
yeah.
That's the next. He's inspired the next generation of male vocalists out here,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
he was so ahead of his time as it pertains to owning your rights and your masters to music.
Yes.
And then years later, we hear T-Boz and TLC. They were saying, we got our master. We make sure you go and you get your masters. How important is it for artists to go and get their masters as it pertains to their music?
I think it's very important that you own your work, you know.
Yes.
But I do also believe that if I'm a record company and I put up a certain amount of money, you know, we should share. It should be fair. If because a lot of times, like, these record companies be putting up a lot of money to make sure that that to propel your career. Some of them contracts ain't always, like, most of them aren't always the greatest. So, but like a lot of times, you can't expect to own everything and then not, and you want them to promote and do all of this other stuff,
Right.
and they not make any money. That just doesn't, that's not even a good business
Without
motto.
business. Exactly.
So, and these things, these pieces of art are meant to be negotiated, like, to be able, especially if you coming in with nothing and you just coming in with like a song, a couple songs, and I'm taking $2 million, $5 million to help you get your career. It's up to you to negotiate what that deal is, as opposed to just, like, just signing away your masters or whatnot. And a lot of us come into this thing, we don't have no money, and they know that. So in that contract, you paying for everything, and then, it's just, you just really have to really, when you take on these companies and these people that you want. That's why independent stuff is just like, jumping off. You just have to make sure you cut the best deal for yourself, with whomever you're dealing with, because a record company can be great, your record company can be great, but you still have to have some of these components to make your record fly, or at least somebody that's social media savvy, you know. But it takes money to make money. You know, it's not. Some of this stuff is fluky, but some of it's not. Some of it, these people, artists are putting their money up to ensure that it's heard around the world. It costs. It costs the record company to get you everywhere you need to be. You
Mhm.
know, and sometimes, they take the lion's share. It's just a matter of just negotiating and stuff. But a lot of times they didn't want to give up, you know, um, all the money that they were making, because they were making far more money than what a lot of the artists were making. So, but to me, I'm like, I don't want your money. I'll just pay me give me my money,
Right. Give,
and I'll
give me my cut.
yeah,
Exactly.
you deserve to make what you put into me, but I don't want to be riding the bus and you drive. Nothing wrong with riding the bus. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, if I'm writing like these hits, and you banking off that, I think I should reaping some of those benefits. So that's all.
Exactly.
It's just
And that brings me
math.
to my next question for you. How do you feel that the internet has impacted the music industry?
It's
Because at
incredible.
that time, when we were
Hmm.
talking about Jade, Tony Braxton, Prince, I mean, we really didn't have social media back then at that time.
Hmm.
It was more so hearsay from the papers or just talking from experience in the business. But
Hmm.
now you've got social media. We're now in a day and age of different
Hmm.
technology. So, how do you feel that the internet has impacted the music business?
Um, I think it's incredible. It's
Oh, yeah.
flipped it on its head, because they're having to, create new framework in which they operate, which is really a good thing, because when you got some business minded people that can put things together and help you to facilitate what you're doing, given you got the right people that's not trying to just rip you off or something, things can really really be great. I mean, and we can get our music to like different countries faster, you know with the independence. We don't have to wait for people to pick the singles. But I think their motto was good, but some of the stuff is just antiquated. We've kind of grown past some of the old ways of doing things, and kids ain't waiting no more. They cutting videos, they making the music, they getting the art out there, and it's almost like what hip hop did. You know,
Oh,
hip
yeah.
hop hip hop needs to be given like a lot of credit for a lot of things that changed and made a lot of people a lot of money and helped the industry at a time when it was really not like open to hip hop. People need to really really recognize that genre, for what it has brought to the game. A lot of our music has, though. Like jazz did some stuff, R&B. We always innovating, but it's so funny. Like we innovate on like barely having nothing. Like they don't give us they give us like a little bit of, and then next thing you know, we turn that little bit of into like this big giant conglomerate, and, and then sell it.
And that
you know,
empire grows and
yeah,
grows. It's important that when you get into this business, you read, because you've talked about contracts and stuff,
yeah,
to read those
yeah.
read it with the fine tooth comb, like
Mhm,
word for word. Understand what you're getting
mhm.
yourself into. Not
Yeah,
saying don't sign to a label, but just make sure that you know everything
yeah.
from fine print and top to bottom, what you're getting yourself into versus being an
Mhm,
independent artist. You have more control. Like me
mhm,
hosting this platform, I'm in charge of setting up the interviews. Like I spoke with
mhm.
Gina. Ron Cat put me with Gina, and Gina has been an angel. She set up this interview, and
Mhm.
I must say
Thank
that
you,
I am
G.
very, very honored to be here in your presence. And it's
Mhm,
all because of the art of communication and
mhm,
making sure to read over everything.
mhm,
So she asked me, what is it going to be about? Sitting with someone as prestigious as yourself
mhm,
and just discussing the music business and your career. And I've sat with so many artists on this platform, and they've said the same thing, about reading the contract, about owning your masters, and how
mhm.
important that is. Make sure that you are going over everything.
Yeah,
Surround yourself with a great team of people. And
yeah.
I can give you another big artist because we talked about Lenny, we talked about Prince, Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
Beyonce is one where every one of her concerts, and I say this all the time, is a masterpiece because she has that great team behind her.
Mm-hmm.
And if she, Prince was the same way, Michael was the same way. And the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, she was the same way too. They are consummate perfectionists. Prince, every music video that he gave us, even to when he dropped his name and he said, okay, I'm just going to call myself a symbol or the artist. Y'all remember. But one thing I can say about these artists that I've named
Mm-hmm.
is that they are professionals,
Mm-hmm.
as well as Ron Crafty, who's worked with them and been in the industry himself. And I'm honored to
Mm-hmm.
be in your presence. So that's why I keep giving you your
Thank
flowers, because it's
you.
important to know that when you get into the business, a lot of people think that it's, I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to shoot videos. No, it's a lot that goes into it behind it. I
Yeah.
watched Beyonce's documentary for her four album. I think it was Life is But a Dream. And
Mm-hmm.
HBO premiered it, I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And she took us behind the scenes of her performance. I think it was the Grammys or the AMAs, one of the award shows. And Ron, we both know Beyonce's work ethic. If she's not happy about something, she will let you know.
Yeah.
She wanted everything from the stage effects to be perfect. And if something was off, she would give you a look. So you would
Mm-hmm.
know instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Prince was the same exact way. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching a clip of him in the studio saying, we're going to get it right and we're not going to do it at all. Michael was also the same way. And I've
Mm-hmm.
sat with Summer Roner, who is an amazing artist. She had the pleasure of opening up for one of the Jackson brothers and opening up also for Diana Ross with
Mm-hmm.
Evan Ross. She opened up with Evan for
Mm-hmm.
Diana Ross during her show. She's one of the singers there. And she was saying the same thing about, Michael. She
Mm-hmm.
said this about Michael. Michael was a consummate professional.
Mm-hmm.
And you go behind the scenes and you watch all of these artists. They put all of their blood, sweat, and tears into their performance and making sure that they give you a stellar concert.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you, for 10 years, Cat Delic has been off the road. So you've created Cat Delic from being along with P Funk, the great himself, George Clinton. Tell us about Cat Delic. So I was building it up so that we could get into Cat Delic.
Catdelic is basically just like it's it's my version of like what I experienced on the road, um, and all the things that I've learned from being with Parliament Funkadelic. But I had to build up the name because a lot of times, like when you're with these bands and you go off to do your own thing, you thinking it's gonna just like do its thing, and sometimes it does. It takes off and does. But I had to work to earn the respectability of my doing my own thing as opposed to like when I'm on the stage, when they come to town or whatever, and I'm on tour with them or whatever. And so, um, they, my brother, I call him my brother, Tracy is George's son. He gave me the name, no, George said, because at first people would say cat-adelic. And he said, no, don't say cat-adelic. You should say cat-delic. That's what it should be, because everybody thinks, Okadelic, because there's never going to be another Funkadelic. There's never going to be another Parliament. There's never going to be another Michael, none of that. And so you have to create your own thing and you have to back it up. And I had to be able to back it up with those guys and being on the stage with them, in between the two bookends of Boogie and being on the stage with Bootsy and Bernie, and it's a plethora of just funk info, and not to mention my own that I'm bringing and how I feel about it, and then meshing those things, and then coming from a commercial songwriting background, and then morphing all those things together has helped me to build the name and build the brand of Catdelic, and that's how we came into that. And then to get the validation from them, like and so they're my family, so they'll give me the thumbs up. And so, but you have to, you really have to put in the work to even to live up to that, because they wouldn't have had me on stage if they didn't think that I was. I could handle it, and it's to be handled. It's not, a lot of people think it's just, a lot of people know, but a lot of people think it's just, it's just people just they think funk is just, shank shang a lang lang or whatever, and it's a little bit of
No,
that, but it's a lot more to it. Funk is its own reward, like Pop says. It's man, I gotta pick up my daughter. Can you go with me?
sure,
I mean,
sure.
I'm gonna have to walk and go because I don't know if I'm gonna have to jump in the car and go get her because I just got a message that they're not gonna be able to pick her up, and I don't want to keep that. Give me 1 second.
In the meantime, between time, fashion dolls, make sure you guys please go and check out Cat Delic. Check out some of the greats that Ron Cat has worked with. I mean, he's worked with so many people. Some of our favorite singers, from Tony Braxton to Prince. Hence is why I did Purple today, because when I saw Prince and Jade and so many others, you guys know that I'm a big Prince fan. So I had to do the purple in celebration, hence the purple and blue, which is my colors for this season. So thank you guys for tuning in. Um, Also, now you work with some of the Bay Area's finest artists who've been in Digital Underground, Monophonics, Crown
Yes.
City Rockers, and so many others, just to name a few. So, for you, that experience, with your experience in the industry, getting out here
Hold
to
on one
help the
second.
next generation.
I gotta pick up. Could you repeat that question?
Yes, I was saying you work with Digital Underground,
Oh
Monophonics,
yes,
Crown City Rockers, um, just a few of the Bay Area's
with Shock
finest.
G.
Yes.
I cut a bunch of tracks with Shock G that I'm gonna release at some point.
Mm,
He was amazing.
yes. It's like we lost so many giants and icons in the industry, but there's still some that are living. Like, I must say, we didn't lose Prince. Technically, he has Sheila E. Sheila E. is like a yourself as well, Marva King,
Hmm.
and Sheena Easton, just to name a few. And then, of course, you have Morris Day as well. That living
Yeah.
embodiment, he's still here in some sort of way. His impact on the industry overall, as far as funk, is being able to mix. Because Prince did a number of things. I didn't even really put a category on his music, but I must say he blended it all beautifully.
Yes.
Whether
Yeah.
it's the guitars, whether it's rock, when the doves cry, he gave
Yeah.
us hip hop. He gave us, because on his '98 album, which I have that one, and I had to wait for it to come all the way from overseas.
Uh huh.
Whereas him, he's shirtless on the cover, and this is when he went. He started his own label, and Shaka Khan was signed to his label as well too, and Larry, and a few other artists were signed to his own label. But
Hmm.
on that album, you can hear some rap. Prince is rapping on that album.
Hmm.
The Diamonds and Pearls album, he's rapping. So I mean, as far as him and his influence, you see the rock, you see the hip hop, you see the funk. He blended it
Yeah.
all together, and it just worked perfectly.
Yeah. That was the true inspiration about Prince for a lot of us that
Oh
play
yeah.
guitar and like the rock, because we like to keep the rock influences in our stuff. Like I just did some stuff with Jesse Johnson, and he's like a master. He was like my guitar hero and still is. And I was just so happy to have been able to do, the shows with him. And I was, I was stealing everything I could learn from him. It's just such an inspiration to finally get to meet Prince and meet him, because he was another one that could blend those sensibilities together, and his new album that's coming out is going to be amazing. Hopefully I made it on one of them songs, one of them albums. I
And
mean, one of them.
you have.
Yeah.
Your legacy is impacted so much. Your music is everywhere. So my next question for you is, with all of these new artists that are out, Which one would you like to collab with? Like, I could see you collabing with Lucky Day or
Oh,
Usher. That would
yeah, yeah.
be great too.
I would, Tyler the Creator. I would love
Oh,
Pharrell. Um, it's so many of them. Want to do some more stuff with. Want to do some more stuff with Lenny. Um, uh, Doja Cat.
mm,
SZA. Um, any one of them. I like. It's so much stuff that I like that's out there. It's so many new artists, independent artists that are doing some really, really
oh
just
yeah.
and I'm into like a lot of different kinds of music. I like a lot of rock and roll stuff too. Like some of my stuff has some this new album has some rock and roll stuff that I'm doing. You have to forgive me. I'm just driving too. I'm focusing on not. I don't want y'all to be witnessing me
No, you are
crash.
good. You are good. Again, it's an honor to be in your presence. You driving it all. You trying to stay focused. I understand, but I'm shooting you those questions, and we're
Okay.
doing it. Welcome, Gospel Delic. Welcome.
Mhm.
If you're just coming in, we are here with Ron Cat Spearman, the great Ron Cat Spearman, and we're just going through his prolific career of his music. Because, like I said, he's worked with so many artists that we all know and love. And Prince is one that is dear to my heart. So I'm a big
Absolutely.
Prince fan. I'm a
Yeah.
big Michael fan, but
Yeah.
we've lost so many giants. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like the legacy is still here, but we're
Hmm.
seeing it through the next generation of these up and coming artists that you've mentioned. SZA,
Hmm.
Doja Cat. Another one is Coco
Hmm.
Jones, who
Hmm.
is an amazing female vocalist.
Hmm.
Um, the Jasmine Sullivans, the next generation of artists that are coming out right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
At that time you had, Tony Braxton. You had, I mean, it was almost in a way people were trying to pit these three women against each
Hmm.
other. You had Mariah Carey, Tony Braxton, and Whitney Houston, and it was just
Hmm.
like, okay, there can only be one female vocalist or one female artist, and I'm just like, it's enough room for every artist to shine, because everybody has their own sound, their own look, their own aesthetic.
Yeah.
And even as it pertains to working with girl groups,
Yeah.
as we mentioned with Jade, every girl
Mm.
group back then had their own aesthetic. So In
Yeah.
Vogue wasn't trying to be like SWV.
No.
SWV wasn't, yeah, well,
Yeah.
SWV TLC, they were more so into, as far as style, as far as their aesthetic,
Hmm.
they were into the baggy clothes, they were into the
Hmm.
tomboys, but they also could dress it up
Uh-huh.
every now and again. But vocally, every group had their own thing, and it's about individuality. So that brings me to my next question for you, Ron. How important is individuality as being an artist?
I think it's very, very important, to have your own individual style and to be, to help to enhance. It helps to enhance your brand because you're trying to establish yourself as an individual. But I think a lot of us sometimes we borrow things from time to time, from like fashion from the 40s or 50s or 60s,
Mm,
depending. But it's good when you can borrow from different things and then just um, add your own flair, your own signature to things. And every once in a while you're able to come across something that's all your own. A lot of us bring a lot of our own style to things, um, just naturally, you know. Um, don't need don't need a lot. Um, hold on one second. I gotta. Uh, thank you. Um,
you are
yeah,
good.
yeah.
You're good.
So yeah. Um, but I think individuality is essential. I mean, and not being afraid.
to be an individual and not worrying about what people are gonna think about what you wearing, you know what I mean? You want to be on trend with stuff too, but sometimes you gotta just, I think you need to step out and be, 100 yourself, you know, your own
Every
vibe,
Absolutely. Every artist has that transition period, as I've mentioned with
Mhm,
Mary J. Blige. Another one of my favorite female vocalists is Janet Jackson. I love her.
mhm,
When she first came out, it was okay. I'm Michael's little sister.
mhm,
She gave us Control. I'm gonna go through,
mhm,
album by era. She gave
mhm,
us, what was it? The first album. I think it was either Rhythm Nation or Control. One of the two.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
she gave us those two, and then she gave us the Janet album. And
mhm,
it's like she shelled, she blossomed, she became a woman. And then
mhm,
she gave us Velvet Rope as far as sexuality and pushing the envelope.
mhm.
Another artist who's worked with our, our the late, our fave, amazing overall Prince,
Oh,
Madonna. We seen her
yeah,
transition period
yeah,
where she would change her look for
yeah,
every single
yeah,
album.
yeah.
So for artists, it's just like, okay, I'm in the sophomore jinx. I first came out with Mary J. Blige, it was 411. The second
Mhm,
album was My Life, which was the sophomore album.
mhm,
So her style change, we seen her style change after the My Life album was what Share My World, and we
mhm,
seen her get more glamorous. We start
mhm,
seeing her wear the
mhm,
furs and the dresses, and then
mhm,
after the Share My World album was the Mary album.
mhm,
So it was more feminine. Of course, it still had its
mhm.
edge, but it was a little bit more glamorous as well too. So every artist had their era. They tried to be ahead of the time,
Yeah,
and at that time, back then when Jade was out, it was all about the baggy
yeah,
clothes. The short shorts, the
yeah.
crop
Combat
top,
boot.
the
Yeah.
hoodies,
Mhm. Yeah.
combat boot, all
Mhm.
of those things.
Yeah.
In Vogue is another one that likes to take back from the
Yeah.
60s, the 70s. I mean, they were compared to the Andrews sisters. They
Ah.
were compared to the Supremes. People were calling them the Supremes of the 90s,
Mhm.
Diana Ross and the Supremes, because they literally,
Mhm.
vocally, unmatched, same
Mhm.
similarities, but it was four women instead of three.
Mhm. 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 Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And so it's very, very important that artists continue to keep finding their own individuality. It's
Yeah.
okay to say, this artist has inspired me, or the next generation of artists inspired me. And going
Mhm.
back and watching interviews of the next generation of artists, whether it may be Coco Jones or SZA, say, hey,
Mhm.
Whitney has had an influence in me.
Yeah.
Um, I've watched interviews with Brandy, and I'm pretty sure you've come in proximity to
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And she just talks a lot about Whitney. And if you go to her debut album, this is baby Brandy, 12, 13 years old, and she sings and does her runs just like Whitney Houston. And it's just like, you can
She's
tell Whitney
amazing.
has had an
Yeah.
impact. If you go back
She's.
and listen to Brandy's debut self-titled album, you guys will see what I'm saying. Same
Mhm.
thing Whitney would do.
She's
Stage
amazing.
presence. And I went back and I watched some of her performance. Whitney has like a certain aura. She would always close her eyes when she sings. And it's
Mhm.
just like, Brandy is the living embodiment and testament of that. Just what Whitney taught her, because she says Whitney taught me how to do this in one of the interviews. This is baby Brandy now, 13
Mhm.
years old, and belting out notes like a woman.
Yeah. She's amazing. She is amazing.
So it's incredible that artists pick up influence from the next generation of artists like yourself, Ron Cat. You are the living testament of icon,
Oh,
because you inspired the next generation of artists out here.
that's very
That's
nice.
why I say Lucky Day, Bilal,
Mm.
who's another one? October London. We
Oh
see the
yeah.
rise of these
Yeah.
male
He's
vocalists
killing it.
start to rise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because back in the day, it was competitive. You
Mhm.
had Usher, you had Genuine,
Yeah.
you had Tank, you had Tevin Campbell, all of these male vocalists that I just named.
Mhm.
It was just like, okay, who's gonna be on top? It's like a you know competition, but everybody had their own thing. They had their own way to shine. Johnny Gill is another one.
Mm-hmm.
And these gentlemen
Yeah.
have never stopped touring, never stopped performing, still giving us their all.
Yeah.
Keith Sweat is
Yeah.
another one. I
Yeah.
mean, it still goes on with the
Yeah.
next generation of these up and coming male vocalists.
Yep. Yeah. We gotta. That's a lot of them. Lot.
It, it's so many. As far as indie artists, we're seeing the rise. If I mentioned the rise from across overseas,
Mm-hmm.
then and even here in the United States, we're
Mm-hmm.
seeing a lot of indie artists start to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take this push."
Yeah.
They've took it even a step further. I have one that is going to be coming on the show, and I had the same conversation with him, Stephen Voice.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about him, because he's all the way in over cross seas in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
is that he infuses pop, R&B, the same way Prince would, the same way you
Mm-hmm.
would. He
Mm-hmm.
infuses hip hop, pop, R&B, rock all together
Mm-hmm.
in his genre of music. And he's talked about being able to, like, okay, crossing over. That's a big conversation in the music industry as well too.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing when Whitney came out, was like, okay, I don't want to sound too bubblegum poppy-ish.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing that she said. And then MTV and certain stations not wanting to play the music because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, your audience, your fan
Yeah.
base,
Yeah.
what are they gonna think about it if I do this certain genre of music? So
Yeah.
how important is it for artists, to say, okay, this is what I want to do when when it comes to having these discussions with their team?
Yeah. I think it's very important. I think, but artists, we have to be really brave because a lot of the things that we think is popping sometimes, sometimes it falls flat,
Yeah,
and sometimes you got to rework it. Sometimes it's not the right time for it, and we do like a lot of humiliation, sometimes, but sometimes, like, after you get it down, like, exactly what's going to work in that room. Once you identify with your audience, who your audience is. And I'm always trying to find um new audiences, to expand upon audiences. That's what I need to do. Can you hold on one second? My daughter is about to be dropped. Hold on one second.
sure. All right, Fashion Dolls, we are here with the one and only Ron Cat Spearman, and I'm gonna hold it down for so many others.
Okay, I just picked up my daughter.
Yes, I see that she's
Say
adorable. Hi, sweetheart.
hi, Naya. Say hi.
And she's got my favorite color on, hence purple. I guess purple was the cue for today.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it is. That's my
yes,
favorite. Yeah,
we were talking about uh, how important is it for artists to find their own voice, their own sound, and not lead their audience astray. There was a lot of controversy behind Beyonce doing this Cowboy Carter album, and was Smokey. It was Smokey Robinson. He says she can record whatever genre of music she wants to. As an artist, it's about having versatility and not
right,
being placed in a box. And that was
right.
something that Prince was big on.
Yeah,
Like, he didn't like
yeah,
being labeled as, okay, the hip hop artist, the R&B artist,
right,
the pop, the
right,
rock. And
right,
I believe
right.
that artists should be able to express their versatility as it
Yeah,
pertains to doing
yeah,
different
yeah,
genres of music.
yeah.
And I keep bringing up Whitney because what I love about her is a lot of artists started off in the choir, from the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. A lot of them, they started off in church,
Yeah.
and then they say, "Okay, I'm going to leave the church. I'm going to go and I'm going to do more so contemporary R&B.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go and I'm going to do more gritty rock." So I mean, the whole
Mm-hmm.
conversation surrounding Beyonce and the Cowboy Carter album.
Mm-hmm.
Black people have been in country music for decades, for
Right.
eons. We they've been there. I
Yeah.
mean, Rosetta
Oh,
Tharpe, so many of them.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the conversation also goes into how can I keep my core audience? How can
Yeah.
I keep my core base?
It's
I don't want to lose my core base.
it's it's difficult sometimes because like
Yeah.
some of your hardcore fans sometimes they don't want to hear that. They ain't trying to hear that. They ain't trying
No.
you know, like they want you to play the hits. They want you to play the songs that they remember. And it unless your new stuff when you putting out new stuff, unless it's kicking that stuff that you did before that in the butt, they ain't. You know, sometimes you got fans that'll go with you wherever you go when you take them on that experience. But sometimes, you know, sometimes us artists, you know, we can miss the mark sometimes, you know, with the new stuff. You know, we trying to do everything, you know. Sometimes it works a little bit, and some of our fans are more forgiving, and they're like, "Yeah, I like that. That's really great. I'm glad you did that." But could you play? Could you play? You know, some of our fans will go with us wherever we go, and those are the kind of fans, you know, you respect them all, you know, but it's like I noticed that like when I was on tour with P Funk, and you got to be brave, you know. George would be like,
Oh
he
yeah.
didn't care, he he didn't care. He gonna get that artistic expression out, whether you like that song or not, and people would be complaining sometimes, you know, the hardcore funk fans would be like, man, I don't want to hear no whole lot of shaking. I don't want to hear that. And he would play, he would play it even more. He would play it even more. And it became to be like a thing where people appreciated. But when you play One Nation Under a Groove, it's like, you know, what are you gonna
That's
do?
one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites. I grew up
Yeah,
listening to that.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, hey, you're the artist. You are in control of what you
yes,
want your sound to
yes,
be.
yeah,
Every album is not going to sound the same. And uh who else I can think of? Um Rihanna. Rihanna is another one.
yeah,
As it pertains to music, as it pertains to
yeah,
changing her look and going along with the
yeah,
times. She goes ahead with the times. Whitney was the same way.
yeah,
So from the debut album all the way to the second self-titled album, all the way up to My Love Is Your Love and then The Bodyguard
right,
or whatever, or the sound wasn't the same. The
right,
look wasn't
right,
the
right.
same. She was ahead of the times, and you have to be ahead of the times. So
Hmm.
sometimes it kind of throws the audience off a little
Yeah,
bit. I know for me, when Beyonce came out with the Cowboy Carter album, it
right.
kind of threw me for a look because the first one was more so dance electronica. You've
Hmm.
never seen a black artist, let alone a black woman artist, go in and do this genre of music. But it's been there for years because I mean, house music all along, or dance electronica, or rock, pop, they all are infused together. And we've seen artists like
Hmm.
CC Peniston,
Right,
Robin S., Crystal
right,
Waters, a lot of them take on
right,
this genre of music.
right.
It's been there for
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
It's a singer by the name of Sybil,
right.
and they've never got their shine. They've never got their recognition because when we look at house music, there's
Yeah,
only one specific look. You don't see the look how you see this screen was, but there are black artists who do house music, and for her to cross over and say, "I want to take this risk and do country,"
yeah,
because there have been black country music artists, as I've mentioned, Rosetta Tharpe, and Big Mama Morton, so many others that took on this genre of music and say, okay, we're going to give a voice to these other artists who never seen the light of day,
right.
who are no longer here. I'm going to take this on. So it was risky for her to do, but
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it was so worth it because people love it. They
yeah,
love the project. We're
yeah,
used to hearing her saying "Crazy in Love" and "Dangerously in Love"
right.
and "Baby Boy" and all of these other songs, but for her to take a Dolly Parton song and go ahead and remake it and put her own spin onto it, and Dolly
Right.
Parton loves it.
Right.
It's genius.
Yeah.
So it's all
Yeah.
about marketing. It's all about
Yeah, it
making sure
is.
that you have a
Yeah.
team behind you.
Right.
See,
Yeah.
when you sit in that room, when you sit in that boardroom and you're having that
Yeah.
discussion on what's the next single or what's you want your album
Yeah.
to look like,
Yeah.
you go in detail.
Yeah.
So she has an excellent team behind her.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, she does.
So it's important that we take the time to take these things out as an artist. Even with
Yeah.
me hosting this platform,
Yeah.
I always consult with the professionals about, okay, what look should I go with today? Whether it may be fashion or beauty, because there have been some beauty looks as far as makeup or aesthetic wise, and I'm just like, okay, that's a little dangerous for me. I'm not going to try that. But at the end of the day, I'm a risk taker. I'm a Scorpio.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
as far
Me
as beauty,
too.
it can either be a hit or miss.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
you
It's
never
true.
know if you don't try it. Because your audience, they'll get it.
Yeah.
And when I come
Yeah.
back and they see a different
Yeah.
look each day, they love it. So I'm like, keep them guessing for
Yeah.
more. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing of artistry is you keep your audience guessing. But
It's
at the same time, they
so
do
much
get a
more
little,
fun too. It's so much more fun. It's more fun to be an artist when you can just be free in how you dressing and how you know. It's just more fun to me. Makes it much more
this,
enjoyable. It makes it worth being an artist to me.
yes, and the suspense of your audience because they don't know what they're going to get. They're so used and accustomed to one specific thing. But it's just like, okay, I want to do something a little different this time. I know this is not what you guys are used to hearing, but we're going to do something a little different here. And
Yeah.
we're going to change the tempo up a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
taking risk as an artist is all about.
Yeah.
And Prince
For
was
sure.
genius
Yeah.
about that as far as his fashion
Yeah.
moves. Um,
Yeah.
as far as what he wanted his aesthetic to look like. I remember one time he wrote slave on his face. And I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that was the album cover. So he was always bold and adamant
Right.
about, okay, I'm not going to do it your way. I'm going to do it my way. And it's going to be creative. I remember the 1999 album that he did. I remember the Controversy album that he did.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it was a couple that raised eyebrows. And at the same time, for that shock value and factor, the
Hmm.
videos, the aesthetic, everything, he was
Hmm.
ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Because being an artist, you're supposed to take risks, and it's
Yeah.
going to be either a hit or a miss. And
Yeah.
but when he took those risks, we, the viewers, the consumers, the
Yeah.
fans, we loved it
Yeah.
because he didn't care. And
Yeah.
that's what fashion or just artistry is about, going for the
Hmm.
gusto and
Yeah.
drawing us in. And
Yeah.
one thing I can say about Prince, I remember, is that he did not like to take pictures. He did not like to take pictures. And I think it was Sherry Shepherd. She did an interview and he was coming out of the hotel. This was the time she was at The View. And she tried to catch him. He was out, he had his team and everything. And he's like, I don't do that. He caught her trying to take a picture of him. So he was not into that. He didn't do all of that. He was just the
Hmm.
type. Prince was like Sade, and I made this comparison yesterday because Sade is mysterious. Prince
Hmm.
was mysterious. Ron Cat here and Lenny Kravitz are both mysterious. It's just like, what is it in their music? What is the secret sauce or the code in their music that draws you into this artist? But Prince had that effect on people. And Lenny Kravitz does also too. It's just like Lenny just came off a tour not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
and it's just like the artistry itself. You
Yeah.
don't even have to look at a visual. You just listen to the music, and the music
Hmm.
will take you to a place of experience
Yeah.
where the artist who's singing, artists literally are doctors. You're administering medicine to people because we come from personal experience in different parts of life. And Prince spoke out on a number of issues. Michael Jackson was the same way. They spoke out on social issues. Madonna as well too. And at the time where women were told you can't push the envelope on sexuality, Madonna said, "You know what? I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway."
Hmm.
And that she did to the point where MTV was like, "No, we're not going to play this video." And she worked with Lenny Kravitz. So
Hmm.
I think that was for the Justify My Love. And they banned the video. They said it was too much skin on MTV, and I remember the news flash. But Lenny said something in an interview. He was like, if you don't take risks, you're not an artist.
Yeah,
You got to take risks.
it's true.
You got to
It's
talk
true.
about these things that are going on at that time because in the 90s, what was it? It was about having safe sex, it was about promoting sexuality, and
Mm,
pushing that envelope. And not only that, but it was a rise where women were getting a voice and saying, hey, we're not going to stay quiet. Men can make their music about us. But Madonna, she made it okay.
mm,
But way before Madonna, you had Millie Jackson, who
yeah,
was also a funk cateer, a woman
yeah,
at
sure.
that, and she didn't care if the radio stations didn't play the single or the this or that and the third. And then you had Salt and Pepper as well too. So it's been there in that age of music where we see women speaking out on sexuality, speaking out on so many things that are going on in the world. So Michael, Madonna, and Prince, they were all ahead of their time as it pertains to teen pregnancy. She made a song about teen pregnancy. She made a song about all of these. Michael made a song that was very social construct. Prince made a song that was very social construct. And what I love about it is the messaging. It was very in your face. It went over your head. You didn't even see it coming, but it was in your face right there. You just had to read between those lines. Whereas now, it's more so blatantly out there in the open, and people
Mm,
can see it. Right.
mm,
And Chrissy says that he likes the mystique of an artist. The music transcends to a place. It does. It gives you a feeling. It makes you go to that deep thought
mhm,
of, okay, what am I thinking? I'm coming from personal experience, and I know that other people can feel where I'm coming from as well too. And I say that this album is the soundtrack to my life. It is Mary J. Blige's My Life album.
uh,
And I remember battling with depression and
mm,
just not feeling my best. I put on that album. If not that album, then Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And it takes me to a place, or Brandy's Full Moon album, or Prince's Controversy album, and it takes me to a place, or I could put on Sade's Diamond Life album.
mhm.
It takes me to a place where I think and I keep my mind at ease. Like if you listen to every song track by track on their albums, you could hear a place where they were. You could hear the sadness. You could hear all of their different emotions, and it's just like, man, this artist is speaking to me. So before we go, because I know Ron Cass, like, how long is this bitch gonna sit up here and keep talking? But this is real though. Um, for you as an artist, what are some of the messaging that you've got from your fans on your music and how it has impacted them?
Um, uh, some of it is real inspirational and makes them feel. They feel like sometimes certain people feel like they're coming to Cadelic Church when they come to some of the shows because we want you to come and dance and party when you come and come see us. We want you to be dancing and hanging out. So I carve the beats out to make sure that it's on the dance floor. Then we rock out a little bit and we mash up some of the P-Funk stuff and a lot of it. In fact, we're playing the Boom Boom Room. That's our little residency there on the 18th of January. If anybody's in the San Francisco area, you can come out and check us out. We do like a late night show, but a lot of people come when they come to see us. Um, they just they just feel like they've been in church, kind of. I don't know. I don't know if I could relate it totally to church, but we do drag the grooves out and we do make sure you have a good time. I've had people tell me that like you know some of the music is real inspirational
Yeah,
for them and help them to get through their days and just different stuff like that.
and
So
that's exactly what it should be. Music should be like the healing the medicine to people because we go through so many things in days in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to some of your music before we came on. I was listening to Mary's. I have like a whole playlist in rotation. So listening to some of your music, listening to Prince, listening to Mary J. Blige, Tony Braxton, Coco from SWV, like a plethora of artists that I've listened to that put me in a space where I'm happy. So that's why I'm so calm today. With everything that's going on in the world, I could put on a song and it takes me to a place where I'm back to being happy and I know that it's going to be okay. So that's what music is supposed to do.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, because I've had such a great time
Me
chatting
too.
with you, and it was such an honor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Same
You
here.
are so welcome. What are some gems that you would give to the next generation of music artists out here, independently, indie artists, and
I
anyone who wants to pursue a career in music?
I would say believe in yourself is the most important thing that you could ever do for any type of art, any type of anything. You have to believe in yourself and come from a place of truth. Just keep it honest and just keep it 100, keep it for real, and just always believe in yourself because a lot of times with artists, when you don't believe in yourself, it's easy for somebody to come and tell you who you're not, who you think you are. You have to, you at least have to start from a place of just like knowing yourself and knowing that what you're capable of. It doesn't mean that people can't tell you and try to correct you on what you're doing. They're trying to help you, but you know the difference when somebody's trying to help you and when they're just trying to control you and just trying to throw you off track.
Oh yeah,
And and show business is a business where you have to know yourself. You have to. It's essential that you believe in yourself because it's easy to get misled and misguided, when you don't know who you are, when you don't believe that you're beautiful, when you don't know that, you just have to know these things. You have to come to believe these things, and you really have to step out on like a blind faith when it comes to some of this stuff too, because a lot of people will tell you that stuff ain't happening when it's happening. It's just, it's all about you and you projecting that love and that's what I would say to artists. And never give up. But sometimes you have you gotta count more victories. Stop looking at like you trying to be like this one and that one and
yes,
because you're not on this stage and that one. The victory is in that room with them three people in it. The victory is in getting up in the morning. And that might be hard for some young people to get to, but sometimes it's just you have a lot of victories that you overlook, that you've been blessed with to have that are all your own. And so my thing is just knowing thyself and believing thyself and just continue to spread love to people and keep the love in your heart. Because what you have in your heart will surely come to light, like I say in one of my songs. So just don't stop spreading that.
and that is
That's all.
absolutely real. So today's final thought, Fashion Dolls, comes from the book Rest is Resistance. And it says that you are not a machine. You need rest and restoration to thrive.
Yes.
And I want you all to take time for yourself, pour into yourself, listen to music. Funk music does something to me. It brings me to a place where I'm happy. I want to dance. R&B music makes me want to fall in love. Gospel music makes me want to just have insight. So each music genre does something to you. And the power of music is to keep people happy and in a place where, okay, hey, this artist is feeling what I'm feeling. And I'm going to leave you guys also with a quote from the late Nina Simone. She says, the job of the artist is to reflect the times. So when artists put their music out there, they inspire us because of what they've been through from personal experience, and then we share it with our friends. We let our friends listen to it. Like, I know me and my girlfriend, I call her my sister, we were just texting a few minutes ago, and we would talk about artists, we would talk about music, we would talk about so many different things. Like, she'd say, girl, did you see the new Beyonce vinyl? Or we'll talk about different artists and what we like as far as music goes. But That's what it's supposed to do. You share a song with your friend, and then your friend will recommend it to the next person and the next person, and we're empowering people. So again, remember, you are not a machine. Take that rest period, listen to good music, and continue to celebrate. You pour into yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup. It's human nature. We give so much of ourselves to the world. So remember that, fashion dolls. That is today's final thought as we head into Christmas is next week.
Yeah.
So
Happy holiday.
Happy holiday.
you the same to you.
Hmm.
So you have a show. You have a show coming up
Yes.
January
18.
18th at the
Yeah.
Boom Boom Room.
I'm also
So
playing at Pop's Blue Moon next week. Here in Missouri. Um, on it's next week Friday, whatever that date is. And then if you want to reach out to me on Instagram, you can go to at Ron Cat lower slash I forget what it is, and then roncat .com is where you can find all the music, all the links, and everything. We're on iTunes. We're on all the social media, everything. So um, I'm just wishing everybody well in this holiday season and get ready for next year.
we're
Right?
gonna go into we
We
gonna go in
coming in.
strong. We're gonna be all
We
right.
coming in strong. We gonna come fired up.
That's right. All right, fashion dolls. Ron Cat, it was such an honor and a pleasure. Definitely would love to have you on again. So
Sure, anytime, anytime. I've enjoyed myself. Thank you
same.
for going on this ride with me. Pick up my daughter.
No problem. No problem. And we want you all to have a very happy holidays. Thank you, Chrissy. Yes, Christmas is next week. You guys are getting a show before Christmas. Joining me Monday, we have Ashley Rose Nichols. And then we have Anna Tinney. She's going to be joining me as well, too. And closing out December, we have Stephen Voice joining me. So make sure you guys stay tuned. I love you all. And head on over and subscribe to Style by Stevie Daytime on YouTube if you have not. Take care, everyone. And Ron Cat and Honor.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.